DARKMAN came to me quite late in life. Originally releasing in 1990, I would have only been 7 at the time it came to theatres and would no doubt have been equal parts bored and terrified. Now, I didn't watch DARKMAN until roughly 5 years ago, where I found it to be a charming, messy, very Sam Raimi take on a comic book hero, which I then later found out wasn't even a comic book until after the film released. It was a very confusing time in the 90s. Now, as with all films that look like they're going to be relative hits with a family audience, video games were on the agenda, and if you were going to make a video game based on a film in the 90s, there was one studio whose Hoover was constantly switched on to licensed suction mode: Ocean Software. Altogether, there were quite a number of versions of DARKMAN, from the C64 to the NES, but I don't care about those because I was specifically excited to find that a ZX Spectrum version existed. Much like the film, the game entirely passed me by. Releasing mid-1991, we were already in the dying stages of the ZX Spectrum's life cycle, and even though the games had started to become far more impressive over the years, the game design often hadn't. But Ocean had been successful before, right? They knew a thing or two about how to put together a game based on a license that wasn't a waste of tape, so they said to themselves, let's look in the back catalogue. Look at RoboCop. RoboCop was good, wasn't it? Okay, so we'll just take the RoboCop formula and we'll update the graphics, and then we'll just go right ahead and make absolutely everything infinitely worse.
I won a pink elephant for my girlfriend.
Why don't you just, get lost?
When I first played DARKMAN a couple of years ago, I found that getting past even the first few screens was an absolute slog. I jotted down an idea to perhaps do a video on ZX Spectrum games in which the first level hacks you off so badly you might as well just break your own hands with a hammer. Then I tried Beverly Hills Cop and realised that, actually, you know what? DARKMAN isn't so bad. I could probably beat it, because God knows I'm never getting anywhere in this shite.
I am dead.
So I firmly glued my arse to my seat and decided, today's the day. I'm going to beat this bastard, and I'm probably going to use save states liberally, because here's the thing I need every single one of you to keep in mind while I explain this grueling nightmare. You get one life. One life to get from the start of the game to the end of the 6th level. Level 1 is a simple enough affair. You enter a screen and a number of enemies appear. Normally these beefy gun-toting dudes who periodically fire at you if you're far enough away, otherwise they'll clobber you with their fists while you ineffectually try to kick them in the face. The combat here is stiff at best, where holding down fire and left or right will punch, and pressing down while holding fire will do a flying kick. Basically, just do the flying kick all the time. The second you're up against an enemy, they'll start punching, and every so often you'll end up locked in position ready to take another punch for free, and you really want to avoid as much damage as possible here, because level 1 goes on for hours and hours and hours. Once enemies are defeated, you need to immediately move to the next screen, because for some reason, ninja stars will start flying at you. On some screens, there are no enemies, just a bunch of those ninja stars that, in some cases, spawn in such a way that dodging them is impossible. These are entirely randomized, so there's no pattern you can learn. You just have to cross your fingers and hope to God you can get through largely unscathed. At certain points, a dog will charge at you, which you need to jump over. All well and good, until it starts throwing dogs at you while you're trying to exit a screen, with absolutely zero indication that it's going to send one your way. You can probably already see a few red flags in this first stage, but don't worry, it just gets worse. Toward the end of level 1, you'll be dealing with ninjas who do a ton of damage but really just require you to get a bit of decent pacing before you do some more flying kicks. I don't really remember Durant doing an awful lot of flying kicks in the film, but here in Ocean's reimagining, that's all you're going to be doing because nothing else works. With level 1 out of the way, the developers checked the RoboCop crib sheet and realised they needed a minigame to break up each section. And this time we're tasked with taking a photograph of a particular subject so we can make a mask of his face. Just like what happened in the film! Only the developers here seem to think that it's possible to scan multiple different windows to find the correct person, then move your cursor over them, then hit the shoot button in the span of about 0.7 seconds. This is bafflingly fast and entirely random as to where your target is going to pop up. So you have two options. You can either get lucky, or you can keep your camera placed in one window and hope that the mark appears there at some point. You only need 2 clear shots of different sides of their face to get the mask, so it is just about doable. It did take me a second to realise what that mask actually does, but effectively it stops the enemies from attacking you so you can go about your business for a minute or so, which is something you want to take advantage of from level 2 onwards, because the game is now a platform game crossed with a beat-em-up, crossed with a torture simulator. You need to make your way to the top of this level while everything and everyone slowly drains your health away. And you may think it's worth killing off all the enemies in case you do fall down, making it a bit easier to work your way back up, but no! Instead of dying or getting knocked out, the enemies just go into this depressed state for 30 seconds or so, before eventually popping back up to become an eternal pain in your arse once more. And good luck if you accidentally jump on the edge of a platform where an enemy can and will smash you off the edge. So currently we've got horrible platforming, constantly respawning enemies, a clumsy fighting system, traps that consistently drain your health with no real way to avoid them. What else do we need? Blind jumps. Of course we need blind jumps in this level, where one false move will see you fall right back to the start. This level, in general, is confusingly laid out. You're never quite sure if you're headed in the right direction, and all the while you'll be questioning just how many hits enemies can take, because sometimes it's 2, and sometimes it's 3, and sometimes it's 4, but there never seems to be any rhyme or reason to it, and oh look, another blind jump, what a fun game! Now by this point I've probably been fighting through this thing for 20 minutes, so I started to save state mid-level, only I'd save stated myself in a position where I had virtually no health. I had to jump to a tiny platform, completely blind, then jump to another platform where a cannon was constantly firing, an enemy was ahead of me, and a floor spike was placed exactly where I couldn't avoid it. Taking damage from 3 different things at once, none of which I could do any fucking fathomable thing about, was proving quite difficult. So I started all over again, this time attempting to get back to that stupid platform with a bit more health than I had before, and well, I did it, sort of. I still had bugger all health because trying to dodge anything in a world made up of purely black and yellow graphics isn't exactly my forte. This level, you see, does have health pickups, but they come very few and far between, and this section where you're constantly taking damage doesn't even end here. There's more enemies who won't even let me climb a bastard ladder in peace. But after another minute of fighting through enemies, dodging random bullets and making precarious leaps, I finally find another health pickup when I have just 1 hit left to spare on the life bar. Thank goodness for that. Now I'm good and ready to take on the rest of this level, and are you fucking kidding me? So it makes me play through that entire thing with no health pickups to ease the pain, and then it replenishes my health 2 enemies away from the exit where your health is replenished anyway. Man, fuck this game. I'm about to go DARKMAN. We then get to a boss fight. It's just the same as every other fight, but it lasts a bit longer. Awesome. Level 3 brings you a new kind of pain and misery in the form of a rooftop chase sequence. After taking some time to realise that this person in the helicopter is holding a bazooka and is not, in fact, a bald woman with her waps out, I ensure a save state was in place before I set off trying to get through this horrific mess, and man alive, what a joyless escapade this is. Please, once again, bear in mind that you are required to complete this entire game in one life while you watch this abject horror. awful business. After another game of World's Fastest Cameraman, we enter level 4, and once again, it's another platforming beat-em-up level with very little to differentiate it from the other stages, outside the fact there are now big, awkward walls blocking your path that are indistinguishable from the background scenery. Your goal here is to make your way toward a bomb at the bottom of the level and arm it, but one thing I failed to notice, because literally everything is black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow, was this timer here in the top right, stuck at 999. Had I noticed that, I would have realised that I needed to keep track of the path I'd taken, because I'll no doubt need to hot-foot it back up there again. Though, bearing in mind it took me a solid 7 minutes of struggling to even get down there, I don't think my memory would have been much help. So I find the bomb, I arm it, and I place a save state because fuck making this trek all over again. As I'm headed back up though, a curious thing. The enemies I defeated on the way down here, they were still defeated. For the first and only time in this game, enemies you knock out will stay on their arse, which is brilliant, right? Absolutely excellent. However, do you remember what the previous minigame was? It was the mask creation section. And what does the mask do? It stops enemies from attacking you so that you can walk past them without getting into a scrap. Now let's just do some quick game maths here. What do you think this potentially means now that I have to make my way back to the start of the level again? If your answer was that I would spend upwards of 30 minutes absolutely losing my shit because it's virtually impossible to clear out all these enemies while also maintaining my health, while also trying to get to the exit on time, then you answered correctly, because fuck this game with a massive stick. I can't tell you how many times it took me to do this, going so far as to restart back at the bomb and find the most optimal way to get through the level, because I absolutely refused to go back to the very start again. This was pain. Torture by numbers where every number is yellow, and by God did I reach the point of almost giving up 1,000 times. And more. It came down to this. One last attempt, one last push to get through.
DARKMAN is shit! DARKMAN is shit! You heard it twice before, but DARKMAN is shit!
Whoa, that was close.
With another level down, I was approaching the end, and it was time for another different kind of minigame, one so hatefully placed as the second last level. I'm genuinely baffled as to how they thought this would fly. It's a memory test. A memory test that has you wrestling with controls, because every time the helicopter moves, Durant swings in the opposite direction. Your goal here is to avoid taking too much damage either from the helicopter's bombs or from the traffic. In order to do that, you have to know where to be and when to be. In order to know that, you'd need to replay this game to this specific point over and over again in order to map out the muscle memory required to do it. I don't think any child alive in the 90s deserves to be put through that level of punishment. That leads us to the final level then, after yet another round of accidentally taking baby pictures. This time, enemies are back to their usual, go down on the ground for a bit then get back up to bother everyone, and ultimately this level is largely fine. By this point I'd gotten the knack of flying kick, run away, flying kick, run away, and the only real difference between this and every other level was the fact it was blue instead of yellow. And it's got a final boss in it. Now the final boss isn't exactly easy. Armed as he is with a machine gun, he can easily take your health down to nothing in a matter of nanoseconds, which would no doubt ensure any child who'd reached this point and died would smash their keyboard into stardust. Luckily for me, I'd given up on life by this point, and I was taking this son of a bitch down with me, regardless of how much health I lost on the way. And your end screen reward for successfully beating this mess with a single life? Yeah, thanks. Crash Magazine, 82%. Sinclair User, 78%. Your Sinclair, 85%. And it's from this magazine. I'd like to read you a quote. The game's primarily a beat-em-up, but it isn't like one of your run-of-the-mill fighting ninja death massacre affairs. No, it's actually rather well done. In fact, I'd go so far as to say it's really good. There's clumsy beat-em-up bits, tedious jumping parts, and one life to nurse through the whole blessed game. Get Robocop instead and pretend about the graphics. Now you may have noticed a slight tonal whiplash there because I pulled a clever ruse. This is, in fact, a review of DARKMAN from your Sinclair, but it's not one review, it's two reviews. The first time it was reviewed, on release, it got 85%. The second time it was reviewed, 2 years later, it got 22%. What happened in the interim to cause this absolutely insane downfall? Who knows? Bear in mind, this second review came in 1993. We had Doom, we had Super Street Fighter 2, we had literally 1,000 better options when it came to playing games, but 1991 wasn't an altogether different landscape, so your guess is as good as mine. Darkman then, a game I'd never want to experience again in my life. Not for love, not for money, and not for every pink fucking elephant in the world.